Hey, welcome to Sipper Social Club. I am Jeremy, and today I'm bringing to you 5 distilleries that are getting a lot of hype in the whiskey world right now. Some of these have been around for a little bit longer than others. Most of them are brand new, but what they all have in common is that old school style, attention to detail distilling that's going to produce really good quality whiskey at a very young age. All of these distilleries with a keen focus on sourcing very good quality barley for their single malt. All the expressions coming in at least 46% ABV. Of course, non-chill filtered, no added color. The way whiskey is presented for the whiskey enthusiast. Some of these distilleries you may be familiar with. Some of them might be an introduction for the very first time, but let's get into it. Alright, starting off right here in Canada, a distillery coming out of Vancouver Island, BC. It's Shelter Point. They grow their very own barley right on the island. They've been distilling for about 10 years, but recently won awards for the World Whiskey Awards in 2020, as well as taking home 11 medals in the Canadian Whiskey Awards last year as well. The expression I have here is their double-barreled whiskey, batch 5, which spends the first 5.5 years in Ex-Bourbon, and then finished for just 75 days in a coastal blackberry wine cask. This uses malted and unmalted barley. Let's see how it is on the nose. So that wine cask coming through for sure. Blackberry kind of jammy kind of notes here. Kind of like this like musty kind of like malty note that goes along with it. Definitely get like a little bit of oak, some like barrel char, like kind of like a smokiness too. Really nice. Those like dark fruit notes come through. Really nice, kind of like a red kind of plum fruity note as well. Let's go palate. Lots of sweet notes coming through on the palate here. Again, that blackberry, that plum comes through. And then like a little bit of like cotton candy, bubblegum action. Cranberry notes really good, a little bit dark chocolate on the back end, and that oak profile. Really, really nice. This one definitely drinks older than, the 5 to 6 years that it is. Nice viscosity, really like creamy coating, leads to a long finish. Kind of this like rustic fruitiness that comes through in as well. Those like blackberry, like those like dirty, grungy kind of fruit notes makes this really, really nice whiskey. Score-wise for me on this one, I'm going 86 out of 100. I think this is a very, very good whiskey. Shelter Point putting out some exceptional expressions. Take a look at my good friend Rob Whiskey in the Six. He reviewed an entire 2-part episode where I think he went through 8 different expressions. So check out his channel. I'll link to it down below, as well as some other channels who review some Shelter Point stuff. But what a promising distillery coming out of Vancouver Island. Again, that attention to detail, the craftsmanship, that old school style technique of distilling really shines through with really good quality spirit, and well deserving of the rewards and awards they've been getting recently. So definitely check out Shelter Point. Alright, moving down south of the border to a distillery that many American whiskey drinkers are very, very familiar with. It's Balcones, coming out of Waco, Texas. They started distilling in 2009, but then moved to a new facility in 2014 and started winning awards for their whiskey in 2016, including Best Craft Distiller of the Year in 2018. Of course, all my American viewers would know this one very, very well. It's the Balcones 1 Texas Single Malt. I believe Balcones was one of the first to ever use locally sourced barley from Texas. This expression, this is batch SM19-1, so bottled 2019, just 16 months old, bottled at 53% ABV. Let's see how this is on the nose. So lots of caramel, vanilla, as you'd expect. Lots of like barrel char aspect to this. The brown sugar comes through, and then like these this kind of weird kind of tropical fruit note that you might not expect out of something like this. Really, really nice, and then this like sweet kind of oakiness as well. Very interesting nose for sure. Let's go palate. So those tropical fruits, translate to like papayas, kiwis, melons. It explodes on the palate of how these fruit notes come at you. All these different varieties. The wood note in here, heavy. You get some lots of like barrel influence, char, oakiness, but it fits well with the fruit. It kind of balances it out. And then I get, of course, the vanilla caramels, the brown sugar, and then like this like whipped cream sweetness, maybe even like a coffee note. It's very complex on the palate. Very impressive for 16 months of maturation. You would not believe that this thing is 16 months old. You would for sure assume it would be multiple years. It's that Texas climate that has very drastic changes in temperature, very hot to like mildly cool. It definitely leads to fast maturation and interesting maturation types as well. I believe this is the youngest whiskey that I've ever had, and definitely it drinks very, very well for its age. Like I said, the oak kind of hits you and then kind of leads away to like some kind of like drying aspect, but the fruit and the oak play, they work very well together. And it doesn't drink hot, which is insane for being so young. At 53% ABV, you're not getting like alcohol forward, burning notes on this at all, which speaks to the quality, speaks to the craftsmanship and the quality of the casks, in my opinion. Score rise for me in this. This is a very, very solid 85 out of 100. Balcones, they've done single malt very, very well. They also have a bunch of other expressions too. I will link to some more reviews of Balcones if you want to check them out even more, but definitely be on the lookout for this distillery. Amazing stuff coming out of the Texas whiskey scene right now. Lots of other great distilleries in Texas. I could have picked any of them really for this review, but I had this bottle and I really, really enjoyed it, so I'm going with Balcones. So yeah, check out some more stuff from them. All right, let's cross the pond and go to the very north end of Scotland, just below the Orkney Islands, to Wolfburn Distillery. This distillery was revitalized in 2014 by a couple guys coming out of Glenlivet and Glenfarclas. Again, that old school style, no automation distilling, very attention to detail oriented. And some of these casks that are coming out of this distillery getting super high reviews. This is their Aurora, which is a combination of Ex-Bourbon and Oloroso sherry casks. 46% ABV, of course, non-chill filtered, no added coloring. We'll see what we get on the nose. So I'd say that definitely the Ex-Bourbon casks dominate the nose. You get some like honey, like a fruit note, underripe pear, apple kind of combo. You get some of that coastal aspect to this, that wet rock, kind of like sea spray aspect to it. The malty characteristics comes through as kind of like a bready note, almost like a Italian style baguette. Really interesting nose. I would say this is somewhere between Old Pulteney and Highland Park characteristic for me. Let's go palate. Really nice on the palate. Good viscosity, decent finish. Again, I'd say that the Ex-Bourbon cask kind of dominate here. Not too much in the sherry. You can tell by the color it's pretty light, but the coastal elements come through again. That apple-pear combo, the fruit, the honey, a little bit of peppery spiciness to it. It leaves this little like tingly fizz on the finish, which is really interesting. Like I said, spirit-driven. Reminds me of that Old Pulteney style, somewhere between Old Pulteney and Highland Park perhaps. Very kind of light in profile. These notes aren't kind of jumping at you. The only sherry note that I really get, maybe a little bit of dark chocolate, but as far as this, it seems like majority Ex-Bourbon to me, even though it says this is the sherry cask stuff. Spirit driven, but you can tell the quality in this whiskey is there. I think this one for me just needs a little more time in the cask, but definitely a whiskey and a distillery to look out for. Ralphie pointed me in this direction. He said that this was one of the distilleries that he had on his radar and one to look out for in the future. And I think once this distillery's got some whiskey in the cask for a certain amount of time, this is just going to be some great stuff. But for now, for this review, for this score, I'm going 82 out of 100. So I will link to some other reviews of Wolfburn stuff. They have a variety of expressions, some getting really high scores. So check out the description down below for some more reviews on Wolfburn and check it out. Something to look forward to for sure. All right, moving south from Scotland to London, England, we're going to Bimber Distillery. This one started in 2016 and have won multiple awards for their very first bottlings. They source all their barley, again, from a carefully selected local farm. Everything they do is completely on site, including their own cooperage, which is kind of rare in distilleries these days. But again, attention to detail, that old school style of distilling. If you've noticed a trend, we're kind of going through the map geographically, one from each region. So let's go here with this Bimber. This is an Ex-Bourbon Batch 2 coming in at 52.2% ABV, limited to just 2,950 bottles. Let's see how this is on the nose. Really nice, kind of like light, gentle nose. Lots of like floral, vanilla, caramel, honey, a little bit like barrel char going on with this. Really kind of like pleasant, easy to nose for sure. Really nice. Let's go palate. Really amazing profile on the palate. Lots of different stuff going on here. One of the first things I get is this banana note. It's like banana foster, banana pudding, really like rich, ripe to overripe kind of banana notes coming out of it. Like the hickory kind of wood oak aspect in this is really nice as well. Again, vanilla, caramel, this kind of like mesquite, kind of like barbecue note seems to like go along with that like hickory wood. It all kind of like forms itself into one kind of like woody smoked aspect to it. So definitely a really interesting combination of flavors going on with this, and they all kind of work really well balanced. And again, another amazing distillery that's getting a lot of hype. This one I heard about. This was the very first expression I ever tried from them, and really happy with it. Again, really young whiskey, but coming out of the cask just so good. They must source really good casks for their maturation, again, for sure. Out of this one, when you're putting together a small batch of under 3,000 bottles, you can probably pull some pretty good casks. Super excited to see what else is coming out of Bimber. I know they have some very sought after bottlings that go for a lot of money on the secondary market, and they came running right out of the gate. A lot of their very first bottlings getting huge recognition and awards, and rightfully so. Score rise for me on this one, I'm going 88 out of 100. Really like this one quite a lot. If you've noticed, we are shooting in 4K video. Thanks so much to my Patreons for all their support. I was able to upgrade the camera. So thanks so much to everyone that support this channel through Patreon. And now you can see me in 4K. If you want to get involved in Patreon, check out the link down below. There's lots of good tiers, starting at just $1 a month all the way up to tiers that can get you some samples of some very nice whiskey. So have a look if you're interested, description down below. Alright, moving down to the southeast side of Ireland is the Waterford Distillery. Now this is the one that I am most excited about. I was fortunate enough to do a virtual tasting with Waterford put on by Toronto Whisky Society. They had the master distiller as well as Mark Renier. He came over from Bruichladdich, kind of spearheaded this Waterford distillery. And the cool thing they do at Waterford is they distill each local farm separate from everything else. So they really focus on one farm's yield of barley, distill that. They use all the same production methods, including the exact cask types. So everything stays the same, and all their expressions are just different farms. So what they're kind of doing is like creating this almost like library of like Ireland's like terroir as far as barley production is concerned, and just kind of focusing and highlighting these farms. Ireland, known for barley production, some say that it is the greatest place to grow barley in the entire world. The soil, the rich soil, the climate there just works for barley. Barley, of course, the most flavorful grain in whiskey production. So that was really their focus. And during the virtual tasting, I was able to ask Mark, why start a distillery in Ireland versus, something like Scotland, because they're kind of producing Scottish style whiskey in Ireland. It's 2 times distilled, not the 3 like you'd maybe sometimes normally get with Irish whiskey. I thought he was going to say because the Scottish regulations are a little more tight than you would find in Ireland, but no, he said because of the barley, because the barley farms in Ireland are the best in the world, and so that's why they went to the distillery there. This expression is one that I tried during that tasting. It's the Sheestown 1.2. So this, I believe, is the second time they've used barley from the Sheestown farm. All our expressions are 50% ABV. I believe this is coming in around 4 years old. Let's see how it is on the nose. Really interesting kind of like star fruit note to this. I get these like icing sugar sweetness, some floral aspects to this, lots of like flowery notes, honey for sure. Maybe even like carbonated water. It was like a weird kind of note, but very approachable, very subtle nose, very elegant in profile for sure. Let's go palate. Lots of like sweet vanillas, vanilla cake, like the pure kind of like vanilla extract. Really, really good. The finish is pure sponge toffee, caramel dripped sponge toffee on the finish. What a phenomenal note that is. Again, like the sweetness, like the candy notes that come out of this, the spiciness, like allspice, icing sugar, but then that caramel sponge toffee, that sticky pudding sponge toffee note is so good. Really liked this one. We tried, I think, 3 different samples at the tasting. This was my favorite. I went out and purchased this as soon as I could. Phenomenal stuff. Really excited for Waterford. I would like to try way more of their stuff. Other reviews that have come out have been phenomenal, and when this whiskey comes to age, when they start putting out 8-10-year-old stuff, I just think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So this is one distillery that I think every single person should have an eye on and try out their stuff. I think that anyone who is a Scotch whiskey fan will absolutely love this. As you guys know, I don't buy that much Irish whiskey. This isn't really Irish whiskey. It's Scotch whiskey made in Ireland. And their focus to quality, to detail, and what they're doing with highlighting these farms is really interesting and really kind of cool, because you can kind of follow the progress of like your favorite farm season to season and see how it kind of changes and progresses, because they keep all of their maturation styles, including the cask types that they use, all the same. Really kind of cool. I think Mark is a super genius when it comes to stuff like that, right? He did wonders at Bruichladdich, and now doing this for Waterford. This is a distillery to look out for. So let's kind of recap everything. All right, so there you have it, 5 different expressions from fairly new distilleries from around the world. When you're producing whiskey and releasing it at a very young age, the distillate shines through, so it needs to be quality. The attention to detail in the production process, the sourcing of the local barley that these guys are doing, and of course the casks that they're maturing the whiskey in, all have to be great. These guys are knocking it out of the park, and super excited to see where some of these distilleries are going to be in the future. I have really high hopes for each and every one of these. So let me know in the comments down below, which ones of these have you tried, which one might be looking to purchase in the near future, and what have I missed? Let me know a distillery that's on your radar that you're looking out for, that you think is going to be the next best thing in whiskey. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Cheers.